Hi, welcome everybody. This is John with Quilt Easy. I've got Lindsay here with me. We've got the opportunity to interview Mike and Bonnie with Memory Lane Quilting. So, welcome. We're going to keep this as casual as we can, but please tell us a little bit about memory quilting and Memory Lane Quilting and what got you into becoming a quilter in the first place.
Okay. Um, we've been fortunate enough to take some nice vacations. And back in the mid 90s, we took a cruise. And back then, you sat with at a table with strangers. And two of the guys sitting there owned Ann's Quilt Shop in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I kind of giggled because why would two guys be in a quilt shop? Curiosity got the best of me. And I started asking, and he was telling me about making t-shirt quilts. Bonnie had never made a quilt. I'd never made a quilt. Neither of us had ever used a long arm machine. And I thought it was a great opportunity because we had four boys playing football and all the paraphernalia and the shirts and the jerseys. And basically, we decided to start a business to make t-shirt quilts and quilt. We had no business doing it, but 20 years later, we're still here. We actually got it started in 2002. And so we're starting our 20th year now.
When did you actually open the shop then?
Long story short, I didn't have any money back then. And we had another couple that said, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. And we had gone down to that shop in Chattanooga, saw what he did. He actually taught us how to make t-shirt quilts. But the other person came back the last trip and said she had gone to Amish country around here and told them what we were going to do. And they said, oh, you can't make any money doing that. And they pulled out, and they were the money people. Not that it cost a fortune, but we didn't have it. So went back and kept my job, but we started I had a vending company at the time, sold it, went to work in an industry to fix all the electronic stuff because I've been a repair person forever on something. And then after 9/11 hit, bottom fell out of everybody's business. I was the highest paid person there. So I was the easiest to save a lot of money. So I had been downsized. And the rest is kind of history. We looked back and said, what do you want to do? And I said, this isn't going to happen to me again. I'm not going back to work for somebody. Called the guy up. He said, yeah, I'm still in business. I said, we're driving down because now I had to watch my pennies. And we went down and really got the nuts and bolts of how to do it and where to buy this and that. And he's the reason that we became a Knolting owner because he had two Knolting machines. And side note, he still has the same two machines today, or the shop does, because we went down and like we couldn't believe it. We looked in the window and they're like 1992's Knolting machines. He said, you'll never regret it. And that's why we bought a Knolting. And we came back and we opened it up September of 2002 because I got downsized February, I think, of 2002, and it took that long to figure out what we were going to do and get it up and running.
That's pretty cool. What type of designs and tops are your favorites or your customers' favorites?
You want to throw in there, or you want me to keep grabbing? Okay. Somebody's got to be the pretty face. Come on, guys. You know what? We've been doing this so long now. Our customer base walks in and says, here, and we can put on what we want. But we all, when we started the company, we did some basic stuff. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Motto to live by. And every time we deviate from that, it comes back to bite us. So we really started making t-shirt quilts because the quilting community didn't want anything to do with us because I didn't realize what it took to make a quilt back then. So we got really big into the t-shirt quilts. So what's that? We meander those. We put a lot of thread in it because we were taught to make them wrong. We do not stabilize our shirts. And the quilters came in and said, you can't do it that way. And then they look at it and went, but you did. And I said, yeah. So, but we put a lot of thread in it so they don't stretch. We do a lot of flower patterns. I'm not big on making the quilting be the focal point. Mrs. Smith makes a quilt, brings it in. I always looked at it, and I am the quilter, I was the quilter, I should say, until 5 years ago. I am the free motion quilter. I am the custom quilter, even though I've walked away from that now, because everybody was afraid of the machine 20 years ago. So somebody had to pay the rent. But the patterns that we do to complement what they did and make their work pop out. It's not for me to show off. And that's, everybody likes to do feathers and all that. You know what? They put feathers on quilts that I have no idea why they would do that when I look at it. And it's for the quilter to show off. And we just have never done that. We try to keep it simple, cost effective for the customer. And they all become family.
Cool.
That is really cool.
So I know you've got automation now because you not only use it, but you sell and install it. But was there an evolution that you went through? Did you start with paper pentographs? Did you go to templates? Did you just go right off into automation from free motion?
Well, the reason I'm laughing, you name it, I tried it.
Okay.
Okay. Disappearing ink pens, pounce, drawing the pattern on the quilt. We did all of that. And you know what? You got to be really good to follow a pattern that you drew on a quilt, because you just doesn't work well.
I agree.
Then pantographs. I did the pantograph thing, and I never free motioned. And then a lady had a quilt that had 12-inch blocks. She wanted big flowers in it, and I did not have a clue what to do. And she said, "You've been doing those patterns. You should be able to do it." And she pushed me enough to make it happen. And then free motion is what I did. Doing pantographs are boring. And, we talked a little bit about how we got started. We got started as this because it was a business process. It wasn't, oh, we love quilting, we're going to be, I think a lot of ladies that open quilting shops, they have a big enough stash and they go, oh, wouldn't this be fun? And they really aren't business people, and some of them aren't people persons. And we've been in retail all of our lives, and we're customer service oriented, like they do old days, not like they do now. And when we started quilting, I was tied up quilting, running the company. Bonnie had a full-time job. She had the hospitalization and kept us from going in the hole because she made money when the company didn't. And automation helped me be able to be in two places at once. So the machine could be quilting t-shirt quilts or basic patterns and stuff, and I could be making phone calls. I could be doing bookkeeping, all the other stuff that it takes to run a business. And we started, and we can talk a little bit if you want to ask more questions. We've used about every different automated system that's popular today. Okay. From the high price spread to the least expensive. And we still carry 4 of them. And right before COVID hit, we actually had changed the position of our company. We are Knolting dealers, have been for 14 years, give or take, 15 years. We ended up taking over the whole eastern half of the US, and we still service that. But automation is where it was going. And we've kind of changed our focus to that, because we'd have ladies come in the booth and want a stitch regulator on a machine. And they say, well, can I trade it in? And we say, yeah. And how much is it? It'd be $12,000 in your machine. Well, they didn't want a stitch regulator for $12,000. They loved their machine. So we started looking into automating those here in the shop, and we've done a good job with that. And then the robotics is just being driven by the industry. And Knolting didn't have one. So I carried the IQ for a while. Problem with it, great system. It's way priced high. Mrs. Smith doesn't want to spend that much money, and the capability of it, they really never used $13,000 worth of all the stuff it does. They do pantographs, they do blocks. So we went the other way and went to one called the side saddle. Nice system. Unfortunately, the designer of it passed away. And then we've had the Qbot, nice little system. You know, every one of these automated systems has a place, and they wouldn't be around if they didn't work pretty well in most capacities. And then, as you know, we found the Butler a couple years ago. You know, drawbacks to all of them, pluses for all of them. We're switching everybody over to Butlers now that we can, to be honest with you, because number one, it's easy to operate. We've played with all of these things, been lost trying to learn them all. Number two, they're real easy to install for the most part. They're dependable. And the home run was, it doesn't matter what machine a customer has, I can put a Butler on it. And if I can't get to your house, which we try to install, that was one of the little things we did. We install everything we sell. And that's why we were talking a little earlier about the number of miles I put on a car. That's why, because if I can get there and spend 2 or 3 hours with a customer, hold their hand, get it running, and when I walk away, if something goes wrong, the phone call doesn't start. This piece of crap, it took me 4 days to put it together, and it hasn't worked right. The phone call starts out, Mike, I don't know what I did wrong, because it worked really well when you're here, but it's doing this. What do I need to change? And if we do our training right, we don't get phone calls. We see customers at shows, and they come into the booth and they take the booth over. And if you're talking to me about buying a machine, they will throw me out and they will beat you into submission. And it's fun to watch it, especially in Virginia area. We have groupies. and if they see this, we love you still, we miss you. But you know, the nice thing about this industry, the people are just so nice, and they all become part of our family, and we treat them that way. You don't know how many phone calls that we get when a lady calls in and says, you know, I got a problem, when I take care of her, and they say, I love you, when they hang up the phone. And it's really kind of cool. And I tell people, I've got the greatest job in the world. I've got over 200 ladies by their first name in my phone, and she never questions one of them. What a great country we live in, you know? So,
Mike, just one last question, and it's kind of straightforward. You've already touched on it a little bit, but what advice would you give a long arm owner who is considering automation?
First off, do their homework, do their due diligence, research a little bit, kind of get a good feel for what you want it to do. You know, I've had conversations, John, with you and other people about, you know, some of the computers will let you design and do all these wonderful things. And most of our customer base is not going to do that. They want to buy a flower pattern, they want to buy circles, and they want to do an edge to edge. So understand what you want. Talk to somebody that can be objective without being negative, because that's what we try to do. If you ask me, should I buy ABC computer, I'll tell you all the good parts about it, and I'll tell you the things I don't like. Not it's a terrible machine, because they've all been around long enough. They're all doing their jobs. But find out what you need for your specific machine, and then talk to somebody, a dealer or somebody that can help you after the fact. And we've always looked at it that way, because if we sell a long arm machine, guess what? I'm a long armor. Bonnie's a long armor. So when you have a problem, it's something that we probably already have and still have. And it's the same thing with robotics. You know, we run into the same challenges that they're going to run into. So we'll understand what they're doing and can walk them through it.
Okay, one last thing here. We appreciate the time that we've had with Bonnie and Mike. And please, one more last plug for your shop. address, information.
Okay. Memory Lane Quilting. We're in Brecksville, Ohio. Phone numbers 330-468-2831. We're at 6950 Miller Road in Brecksville, which is really nobody cares unless you're local. But we have a website and it's memorylanequilting.com. And we have 108 by 108 backing fabrics. And there's a shopping cart and there's some used equipment on there. But if nothing else, it gives you how you can contact it. And it's really easy because it's memorylanequilting.com.
Great. Thank you. And the next time we'll be together, we'll be at Houston at booth number what?
622.
Booth 622. Yep.
Looking forward to it.
Sounds good. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Mike, and especially thanks, Bonnie.
Yeah, thanks, guys.